Hello, welcome to this webinar where we will be discussing logic programming in GP Pro EX. This is in fact not a new subject, but rather an update and refresh on the logic functionality within GP Pro. Okay, just a couple of items on the agenda. We're going to discuss the different HMI models within the ProFace product line and how they support basically logic and I/O. And then I will show you how the logic works in the GP Pro EX environment. Okay, so here are on this slide, what I'm showing is the GP Pro EX HMI models that exist. And what I've done is I've highlighted in red the units that support the logic programming and I/O scanning, and also note that some of the units also have built-in I/O. So you can see here we have the ST6000 series, which is an HMI plus control, LT4000 series, and the SP5000 series, and then basically what amounts to box versions of these units. So these are basically faceless units. So we have an LT4000 that just mounts to a DIN rail and can run without a display, and then the same for an SP5000, and both of those are capable of running logic. Okay, so just some notes about the HMI model supporting logic. So the ST6000 series has built-in direct I/O. It has direct TM3 expansion, which means that you can mount TM3 expansion modules to the back of the unit, and it also supports Ethernet IP I/O scanning. The LT4000M and the LT4000M multi-converter, which is the faceless unit, has built-in I/O and can open I/O scanning. And then the SP5000 and also the SP5000X, which are the rugged outdoor rated units, also support in the multi-converter, which is the faceless unit, does not have built-in I/O, but does support can open I/O scanning. Although note that the can open module for the X is not a ruggedized version, but still will function with the X model. And then basically all other HMI models in the ProFace product lineup do support logic programming, even though they do not have I/O built into them. So you can still make use of the ladder logic programming and functionality, even if you don't have I/O. So if there's logic things you want to do, or do some small little control things without I/O built in, then you can do that with any of the HMIs in the lineup. Okay, so taking a little bit of a deeper dive into the HMIs, looking at the ST6000 series. So they're available basically when we talk about sink or source, that's referring to, of course, the outputs. The inputs are sink or source. They all have to be one way or the other. And then you can see here, you can look here for the built-in I/O. This is what is in the built-in I/O in the unit. And then you can see you can mount up to 2 TM3 I/O modules directly to the back of the unit. Okay. And then you can also put a transmitter unit onto the back of the unit and then place a receiver unit up to 5 meters away. And then you can have and you can pile on 8 TM3 modules to this receiver. And then the other option is we have the ability to hook up for example, a TM3 Ethernet IP bus coupler to the Ethernet IP remote I/O scanner. And also note that will work with third-party Ethernet IP devices also. Okay, now taking a look at the LT4000M, has a little bit of a different architecture. Again, we have the sink and source. That arrangement is is the same as what we have in the STC. But in this case, what we have is we have two different models. We have a digital I/O model, which is only digital I/O, excuse me, where we have 20 inputs and then 10 outputs plus 2 high-speed outputs that are dedicated high speed. And then here you can see what the specifications are for the high speed counters and the pulse in PWM outputs. And then for this series, we also have an analog I/O model, which takes away I/O from the discrete I/O, but gives us additional inputs, additional analog inputs, basically four inputs, two outputs. And the inputs are there's two voltage current and then two thermocouple RTD, and then two voltage current outputs. And then again, we have the ability to do remote I/O using CAN open to either, in this case, a TM3, Schneider Electric TM3 CAN open bus coupler, or again, this we can also support third-party devices. Okay. A little bit simpler arrangement when we look at the SP5000 or the SP5000X series. You need three different pieces or two different pieces if you just want to use the box if you do the multi-converter route. But note that this is only functional in with using the power box. And then you need a CAN open field bus unit that you attach to the power box. And then if you're using a display, you need to pick a display, and that gives you the HMI package. And then again, we can do uh, Schneider Electric TM3 BCCO CAN open bus coupler module and also communicate to other third-party CAN open devices. Okay, so let's get into the software and see how we actually do this in GP Pro EX. All right, so here we are in our GP Pro EX programming environment. And you can see down here, if you take a look way down here in the lower right corner, you can see that I've selected an STC 6300 for my display unit, which is the STC controller. So now where you drive the logic from, so you can see here when it basically starts, depending on your environment, depending on your settings, etc. Maybe this could vary, but you can see here I basically have a screen open, and then I have my project window. Nothing. Okay, so this is where I want to actually be to talk about the logic is actually going to go here to the screen list. And then what you'll notice right away is in the screen list, this includes not only the graphical screens that are part of the HMI project, but there is also these things in the screen list that we're calling logic screens. And you can see by default what happens is it creates a initial logic program, which is essentially what it may seem like, which is a program that will run once when the unit boots. And then you have, by default, you have a main program which will run continuously when the logic program is running. Then additionally, you have the ability to add by adding new screens. Effectively, when we're adding new logic screens, effectively what we're doing is we are adding new subroutines which you can call from the main program. You'll also notice here that we have the ability to do custom function blocks. That's not part of the context of this video, but basically what it amounts to is having the ability to use the ladder logic instructions and build your own function blocks and declare local variables to the function blocks to create, say, functions that you want to have into one block. And then these functions can also be password protected and duplicated, etc. And now if we look down here, this is where you configure the I/O. So this is also in the screen list. Okay. So when you double click here in the I/O, you can simply see this is where we declare the I/O points, and you can see so it's basically showing you what the different I/O points that exist on this particular hardware are, and then you can declare variables simply by typing in a variable name like so, and we'll just go ahead and declare that for now. Okay, and then you could also see this is where the TM3, so this is the standard built-in I/O. This is where we take care of the TM3 I/O right here, and then you can see you can add modules, etc. Again, just want to not going to get too far into it, but just wanted to show the basics. Okay, so let's go take a look at what it looks like to actually program the ladder logic in the EX environment. So I'm going to go back to my main ladder program here, and then one of the things that you'll notice, logic program. Okay, and now one of the things that you'll notice is when you go into the main logic program, what will happen is you will see that there is a toolbar here for actually programming in ladder. So you've got the different toolbar commands related to ladder logic programming. It has insert, insert instruction, etc. Alternatively, what you can do is you can just come directly here into the ladder editor, and for example, you can go ahead and insert a rung. Okay, and then once you've inserted a rung, I'm going ahead and insert an instruction. Again, this is all using right click and then browsing the instruction field here. I'm just going to pick a basic instruction like this. Okay, and then what you'll notice is as I am typing in these variable names tied to these instructions, it's allowing me to directly declare those variables for my EX program. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and insert a stop this. Okay, again, declaring the variable. Let's go ahead and put our output in. It's going to be motor 1, and also declare that. Okay, so now I've created just a real basic ladder rung. Okay, so now one thing that I'd like to show you also that's interesting about what you can do to do a branch in GP Pro is it's quite simple. And what you can do is basically, let's say I'm creating a start-stop circuit. So what I want to do is I want to create basically a latch around my start because my start is going to be a momentary. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag. I can click on the rung to the left of the instruction and then simply drag and drop around the rung, let go, and now I've got my branch, and now I can simply right click on that again, enter my basic instruction, and then what I can do is instead of typing, if I type in motor, now it should, if I just type in the leading letter of the variable, it should pick it up, and I can place in motor 1. Okay. One other thing that I'll show you here is what I'm going to go ahead and do is let me go ahead and close all these tabs except for my main logic program and my base screen. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I can right click in here and I can say tile, and I'm going to go ahead and tile vertically so I can put them side by side. Let me move this over here a little bit. And now what I'm going to show you is within GP Pro, what you have the ability to do is you have the ability to drag and drop the variable and the instruction into the HMI screen, and actually it will well, you'll see what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. Okay, and now what you'll see is when I let go of my drag, what it's going to do is it's because it's a bit instruction. So it's inferring because I'm doing a bit instruction, I'm going to do a bit switch. Okay, and you can see what it did is it placed a bit switch by default and it made the label start. And so now when I go into this bit switch, you can see that it already applied the variable name to that switch and it put the variable name in the label attribute. And then we'll of course use this as a momentary button. Okay, and then of course we can do the same thing for you have to grab it in the right place. We can do it for our stop. Then we can also, and then what you'll see is now when I do it for this particular, because this is an output, what this will want to do is this will want to create a lamp object. But you can see it does the same thing. It pre-populates it with the correct variable name in label. Okay, so one last thing that I wanted to show here is, so you notice that on the fly, basically what I've been doing is I've been creating these variables, right? So remember back when I declared the input variable, and then also I've been programming here, you can see this has been Basically what I'm doing is I'm declaring variables as I program the ladder logic. So where do those variables actually exist? And where they exist is actually if you go back to the project window over here and you go to the symbol variable list, and that's where you will see them. So this is where the variables are. So when you declare them in other sections of GP Pro, they are automatically put into this symbol variable list for you. And then you can also, of course, come in here and declare other variables as needed. And I'll go ahead and change that to a bit variable also. Okay. So that was what I was going to show you in GP Pro EX today surrounding ladder logic. Please note that this is the first in a series that we will be doing where we will be taking a refreshing and a new look into some newer and some very important functions in GP Pro EX that we haven't looked at in a long time. So look for future content around that. And if you have any suggestions for us to create other content or any other items that are of interest to you, please leave your notes in the comments. So thank you for watching.